Officer Tom, can you hear me?
There we go. Yep, I can hear you.
Let me try sharing my PowerPoint and make sure it's going to work today.
Okay.
Viewable?
Yep, I see it. Looks good.
Is Rod expecting to join today?
Who was that?
Rod Reeks?
I believe so. I believe I saw him on the attendee list.
Can you ping him internally and ask him to monitor the chat for me?
Yes. One moment.
He's the expert's expert, so I would really appreciate that.
It actually looks like he might be out on vacation. So I think I saw him on the attendee list, but I'll shoot him a message just in case.
Thank you. Let's hope he shows.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll give people a few more minutes to join. We're still a little early here. All right, so it looks like people are starting to trickle in, and we're just about 2 minutes after the hour or after the half hour. So I'll kick us off. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning if you're in an earlier time zone. Thank you guys for joining us today for IBM's What's New Wednesday, focused on today, demystifying IBM MAS SaaS, which is proudly being co-hosted by IBM and our trusted partner, Banetti. My name is India Jackson, for those of you who I haven't met, and I'm a partner technical specialist here in the automation space within IBM, specifically focused on our asset lifecycle management portfolio. As organizations today are continuing to modernize their asset management strategies, many of you may be wondering, or maybe in the process yourself of continuing to flesh that out. So you may be wondering what exactly IBM MAS SaaS is, how does it differ from traditional Maximo, or what that journey to MAS SaaS may look like. So today we're hoping to answer some of those questions for you guys and more. Whether you're just starting with MAS SaaS or you're deepening your migration, whether you're fresh to the Maximo space, we're thrilled to have some real world guidance from some experts here from Banetti who have deep knowledge of implementation experiences and firsthand customer perspectives to kind of talk us through that today. Just some housekeeping. The meeting is being recorded. There will be a Q&A at the tail end of this, so feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and I'll be sure to monitor it and shout those out to Tom as he's presenting where applicable. And then I'll also have some poll questions that'll pop up throughout the presentation just to get a better idea of where everyone is and what topics may be most applicable for you guys here today. So before or without further ado, I'll kick it off over to Banetti and let Tom and Matt introduce you guys selves for the crowd today.
Thank you. This is Tom Mahon. For those of you who don't know me, I was with IBM for many, many years, working with our SaaS team and with our sales team on the Maximo Enterprise Asset Management and the transition to the Maximo Application Suite. And I'm going to talk to you today about the MAS SaaS offering, try to take you through some of the details to understand what it is, how it's structured, and how you go about working with the capabilities that it offers and what you're getting yourself into when you start down this road of SaaS. With that, a couple of years ago, the Maximo Application Suite diagram was a whole lot simpler. It had manage your legacy Maximo EAM applications, and it had health and predict and monitor and visual inspections and safety and assist. It has continued to evolve as promised. Many of my presentations to customers over previous years said that you're not just buying the capabilities that exist as of today, you're buying into a roadmap of a ton of capabilities and features that are going to continue to grow and evolve. And that has actually happened. So the Maximo Application Suite is substantially more capable than it was a few years ago. And the application points that people are licensing to use it are still applicable to all of those capabilities. But there's a few wrinkles in the ointment here for people who are trying to look at this new platform. And it's delivered in a completely different architecture. So whereas the vast majority of our customers are running Windows and SQL Server, we're now looking at a hybrid cloud platform called Red Hat OpenShift, common operating environment, which sits on Linux, which typically doesn't use SQL Server, but it can. And it really changes the paradigm for how you operate and maintain the system. It also dramatically increases the resource requirements to run all of this new capabilities. So a lot of our customers are, quite frankly, intimidated by that and saying, well, there's got to be a better way to do this. We aren't in the business of creating and managing these massive enterprise applications, but we sure need those capabilities. So they're turning to SaaS as a route to get to the market. Why SaaS? Let's just talk about it at a very general level. Reducing IT and operational risk. The new set of capabilities and the new platform are very new to a lot of organizations. So turning to a team that's dedicated to just doing those environments on those platforms with those technologies and that security and the infrastructure and all the experience they have to support literally hundreds of customers can reduce cost and risk associated with this entire move to this new set of capabilities. Reduced time to value. We have seen customers take 6 or 7 months just to try to figure out what to do with this new set of capabilities. With SaaS, we've got the environments provisioned in a matter of weeks, sometimes a little more a month, but in a matter of weeks, we've got an environment that we can start looking at, and we have a steady operational cost. It's a fixed price for the year. Unless we decide to grow, then it may go up a little bit, but it's based on what we actually utilize. And it opens up all the capabilities of the Maximo Application Suite. And just a note, you'll see this in a couple spots through the slides. IBM made a decision a couple years ago that they're going to leverage AWS and the Red Hat OpenShift on AWS, also known as ROSA, to help with the scalability of the product and the infrastructure and the security and further distribute the load. So it's a very industry-leading paradigm that this is leveraging, and it's really designed to help our customers get to the Maximo Application Suite faster and more cost-effectively. What is SaaS? What's the underlying principle here? Let's first look at SaaS. It is a delivery model for the application suite. It's not a completely different offering from a technical perspective. It is the same software that you download if you were licensing Maximo Application Suite directly from IBM. There are no differences, if you will, in the SaaS version. And IBM offers it on AWS data centers around the world. When you look at containerization, the idea is that you have a single platform. That's what this Red Hat OpenShift provides. And then you can run a whole bunch of different applications on that platform. Those shared services that the Red Hat OpenShift provides simplifies the capabilities of the applications by leveraging those shared services, number one, and it allows for scalability very, very large. So where you have one application running for Maximo, you can have 2 or 3 or 4. You can expand the containers to grow and scale to the dynamic needs of your organization. So the idea is to take the Red Hat OpenShift on Amazon, install your Maximo Application Suite applications, and allow you to log into them directly. Now, with SaaS, it goes a step further. We use the containerization, IBM does, to put multiple tenants on that single common platform. And this is where a whole bunch of that IT savings and infrastructure savings comes from. The Red Hat OpenShift can support a whole heck of a lot more than one customer. So each tenant ends up with a unique set of applications, and most importantly, a unique set of databases. So they are all firewalled from each other. So each tenant can have their own configuration, whether that be your core Maximo Manage or with industry solutions or add-ons, Maximo Mobile. One customer wants Predict, another wants Monitor, another customer is running real estate and facilities management, is not using the Manage application at all. You have a lot of flexibility in what you elect to make available to your users, and it's scalable to your needs, but they're all isolated. And that's a very important thing to understand. There are some SaaS offerings that work out of a common operating set of applications with separate data or even combined data for customers. Those models are very valid, but that's not the model that's employed here. So all of your data is isolated to just your data stores and your organization, and the only people who are going to be accessing that data. Now, I like to describe SaaS as IBM is responsible for everything from the wall outlet to the login screen. That means that you don't have to worry about the infrastructure requirements, the data redundancy, the server continuity, and the server upgrades, and all those types of activities. So if we look at this carefully, all those things in blue are part of SaaS. Everything from installing the servers, leveraging them. AWS actually does the server hardware and some of that infrastructure and some of its security and performance and availability. And then AWS installs the Red Hat OpenShift on AWS. IBM leverages that to install your applications and do all your upgrades, do all your operational activities, your database management. And with SaaS, it goes a level further to where it also includes what you would typically do in the software licensing. So all of your app points for end users and for other apps that you install are all covered under a single subscription agreement, including your level 1 and 2 support. Now, when I say that it's the wall outlet to the login screen, what we're saying there is once you can log into the system, the URLs are sent to the customer point of contact, and IBM's site reliability engineering team is basically done with the implementation of Maximo, if you will, their portion of it. From that point, the customer or a business partner such as ours will work with you to figure out how to use Maximo, or in the case of an upgrade or a migration, how to get your data into the system so that it has everything there that you want to use. So all of your standard configuration tools are available, your integration, your reports, those types of things are all available. Those are all configured by the customer and their business partner. Next thing I'd like to talk about is to briefly mention the application licensing. Now, you've probably seen this information. These are all the different capabilities that all work out of this pool of app points. And it's a single license metric that IBM has applied to the entire Maximo Application Suite. It's flexible and that you can decide how and where you use points. You have control over that. And it's very simplified control and management on the customer's part. And that gets you access to all the capabilities across the bottom of the screen and new ones as they come along. And as I said earlier, new ones have been added with every release of the product since it came out with version 8.4, more and more capabilities, and the expansion of those capabilities has accelerated significantly here in the last couple of years, and we expect to see more. Now, when you look at the standard licensing of Maximo Application Suite, the software licenses, those are not the same as SaaS application points. They are not interchangeable. SaaS uses this same basic paradigm called application points, but they're very, very different from a subscription perspective compared to Maximo Application Suite licenses. You still have a pool of points, and you still have your concurrent application users and your authorized users using those points. But you also have this new paradigm of the SaaS infrastructure and management taking away from those points as well. So whatever points are required to set up the install of your environment and keep it operational for all the different applications that you have running, those are pulled from the same pool of points. So it's going to be a different metric. If you need 500 user app points, now we're going to add a bunch of SaaS management app points on top of that to come up with the total app point requirements for your implementation. I'm not going to delve deeply into the concurrent and authorized and application users. That's really kind of a separate topic. If you'd like more information on that, reach out to us. We can go through that in tremendous amount of detail and help you to understand all of it. Today, we're just kind of focused on the SaaS perspective of those SaaS app points. So where does that get us next? Now we need to look at the level of SaaS, the additions they're called, of SaaS that are available. And there's really three different levels that MAS SaaS makes available. Essentials is for your basic capabilities, a fixed configuration of a fixed set of features and functions at a fixed price. This is really targeted for the smaller installs. These are the 10, 12, maybe even 15 users that are just focused on a small team and looking for a very affordable solution. It starts somewhere around 50K per year. It can go higher, but it's not going to go a whole lot lower. I'll tell you that right up front. Most customers, middle of the road, are going to fall into the standard offering, hence its name, standard. That's the mid-priced option. It has a lot of different options available. It's very scalable. it can go from that 10 or 15 users up to 1,000 users, up to thousands of concurrent users if that's the model that's selected. So there are additional options there that you can pursue above and beyond what's in each of the essentials offerings. It's still managed as a SaaS environment, so IBM still controls a lot about the environment, but it gets the bulk of the customer base what they need from a SaaS perspective. For those organizations with much more advanced requirements, and they want a lot more control, or at least somewhat more control over certain aspects of the environment, you can upgrade to the premium edition of SaaS. It is considerably more expensive. In many cases, for smaller standard customers, premium could double or more impact on the price. But for very large customers that have a lot of things going on with their Maximo, maybe it's a very, very large number of users or a very large amount of configurations or interfaces, and they need some more flexibility to support that, or they're using some of the more advanced complex applications. Premium is the appropriate route to go, and the value is still there for those customers, even though it costs considerably more. Now, when we talk about essentials, there's actually a half a dozen offerings in the essential space. The maintenance essentials, for those in the traditional Maximo space, this is your core Maximo managed capabilities. One environment, 50 points for application users, 100 work orders per hour, 1,000 health formula scores. You can add an additional environment, that's your limit, and you can add 50 more app points. So you can have 100 user app points. Outside of that, you're growing up and you're going into a standard edition offering. And the same kind of model exists for all the other offerings. The Maximo Inspection Essentials it takes a little different perspective on manage. Visual inspection is core to those capabilities. You can train one model at a time. For those of you who have worked with visual inspection, sometimes you need a large team of people training multiple models. Then you go up to a standard edition. You have a limited number of client devices. It's there for single, double, triple use of points that you want to monitor. It also may be a good starting point, if you will, for somebody who's just trying to try this out and see if it works for one line in their business and wants to expand it even further. Capital planning is a subset of the Maximo real estate and facilities application that's really focused, again, much like maintenance essentials. It's one environment, 50 app points for users, just focused on the capital project capabilities and facility condition assessments. Lease management, same thing. It's a subset of the real estate and facilities module, limited number of leases. Space management and reservations, same thing, limited amount of space, limited number of reservations users, and limited growth capabilities. But all of these are targeted at getting organizations up and going and working with the product, small user base, and accomplishing some high value things with the product. Now, part of the rules here and part of how they keep these affordable is we're not going to be able to mix and match and combine these and say, well, I'm going to do maintenance, but I also want to do capital projects. That's two separate orders. So you can order them separately, but it will not be a single integrated environment. Lease and space, same thing. Yes, they are the same product, but you can't add one to the other and expand an essentials edition. If you need to add both together, we'll go up to the standard edition and you can have as many different modules as you want. Let's look at that a little further. Standard, you got the full set of capabilities, standard operating practices. So you can do any of the math applications. You can start with manage, you can start with real estate and facilities, you can start with visual inspections. You can have multiple non-prod environments. So if you want to dev, test, train, integrate data, however many you want. I think the maximum somebody asked me for once was 13 environments, believe it or not. But you can have multiple environments. You can get any capacity of users, leases, reservations, etc. And you can choose the region you want to operate in around the world. And almost all of the industry solutions and add-ons are available. There are a couple exceptions there that are kind of expensive. Aviation and Configuration Manager, for example, will push you up to the premium level. But otherwise, there's a lot more capabilities in standard than we saw in the essentials. When we push up to premium, we get some ability to customize the operational paradigm that we're working with. We get some flexibility in our scheduling of certain activities, multiple VPNs if we need to connect to a lot of different networks. Deployment validations are available. We can change the upgrade schedules, data retention periods. We can go to an enhanced disaster recovery. There's a lot more capabilities if you're writing custom Java extensions. This one starts to border more and more toward a managed services offering, but it's still available under the SaaS moniker from IBM. It just requires additional app points. So those are the three tiers. Our essentials gets us a basic set of capabilities up and going, working, small organizations. Standard's going to be the preponderance of the organizations that are going to be using the Maximo Application Suite, either from the EAM side or from the real estate and facilities side. That's where most things are going to fall. And then premium's going to be those very large organizations with a lot of very specific requirements that have business value and owning a lot more about their environment. Now, I'm not going to go through these next couple slides in detail. I'm going to highlight a few things about them, but I've included them here so that you can go through them yourself and see that this is a full disclosure type of a situation with the number of app points required for what it is you're trying to do. So this Essentials Edition app point profile here walks through each of the Essentials offerings and tells you how many SaaS app points are required for the base install, any particular application install, user app points that are included in the base, and then what those options are for additional capacity, either the second environment, more users, those types of things. So there is a calculator spreadsheet that we use to walk customers through all of these questions, to do these calculations. The purpose of these slides is full disclosure on exactly what those behind the scenes formulas are calculating. When we move to the standard edition, the users are very similar, self-service, limited, base, premium, and all of that. Then from installation, there's a base install of 100 points, and then the different applications have additional install app points. So manage is 150, puts you at 250 points to start, a minimum of 50 user app points. So our minimum app point requirement for standard is 300 points compared to the 150 for the Essentials Edition. Yes, that means the price essentially doubles. That's what it translates to, because the cost per app point is the same in all of these different environments. So the core thing to look at here is the center columns, if you're installing these different applications and how they are charged on your total app points. So again, we can walk through a calculator with this and figure out what your actual requirements are. And finally, the Essentials Edition. Now, where base installs moved from 100 up to 500 points, plus 300 additional app points for each non-prod environment. So you can do the math in your head. This is pushing the costs up significantly, but this gives organizations a lot more capabilities. And these points, by the way, I want to be clear on that. It's mentioned in the fine print here. You first have to buy your standard edition, and then you add premium edition on top of it. So the costs push up pretty high. Like I say, sometimes it can double for smaller customers, which is okay if these are your requirements and what you need to move things forward. So these are the three additions and what the points are for all of those. Now, when you go to Essentials, there's also some operational services, which are different line numbers, which are actually outside of your app points, are required for the people. You want a dedicated support person who's talking directly to you. We can get that part of it. This is all part of the moving up to that premium edition. Now, moving on, let's talk about some of the things about SaaS that cause debate, let's call it that, within customer organizations as they consider SaaS. I call these considerations because it's not always clear that these are negatives. In fact, there's a positive side to every one of these, but to some people, they can be disruptive. Let's start with a brief discussion on security. Organizations, especially we're in the solicitation mode, will send out a lengthy list of security standards that they apply to all of their internal systems, and they expect the SaaS systems to comply with those. Basically, the answer on SaaS is you're going to get what IBM offers as far as security. That being said, it's very, very robust. More often than not, the vast majority of those questions, do you do this, do you do that? The answer is yes, and IBM does support that. IBM's not ignorant of the need to be very, very secure in their environments, but the tools that are used in the standards and things like that, the connectivity to your SEIM and some of the other systems, those are not available in a SaaS environment. So it's a consideration. IBM's own internal security standards are very robust. IBM's data security and privacy is very important, and it's followed. And then IBM has also voluntarily gone and done external reviews for ISO 27001 and SOC 1 and SOC 2 compliance that are externally audited. So they're very robust standards, but to some organizations, they're not doing exactly what we've always done, so we don't accept them. It's a discussion, it's an evaluation, you have to weigh against that. For those that are in the federal space, it's not mentioned here on the slides, but I do have to mention it. There's also the ability to go to the FedRAMP program, the Federal Risk Authorization and Management Program, which is significantly more robust than any of the commercial standards. And that pushes the federal government up to a very, very high level of security. That's available to any organization, public or private, and we can give you more information on that. The FedRAMP version of the MAS SaaS offering is due out later this year, maybe early next year, but it is in the works, and IBM is aggressively working to get that available in the near term. Let's talk about continuity of operations. IBM does regular backups, daily backups, weekly backups. There's a data retention policy, 28 days for your production environment, 7 days for your non-prods, your recovery point objective at 24 hours, your recovery time objective in the event of a total catastrophic failure, 72 hours. Those are part of the service level agreement that comes with MAS SaaS. Again, that may be disconcerting. IBM can increase that if you're at the premium level. I should say decrease those numbers if you go to the premium level, and probably go all the way to a semi-hot backup type of a situation. So the offering is expandable, and those can be discussed if that's necessity. But it's quite frankly, it's at a considerable cost. So most organizations are very good with the RPO and RTO that are shown here. And the processes have worked for many years now for many hundreds of customers. So things have gotten more and more robust over time. We're in a pretty good position now, and this new technology helps us make it run even better. Number 3 here is often a real bone of contention for customers. IBM offers DB2 for the Essentials and Standard Edition SaaS. Most customers are on SQL Server, some are on Oracle. To move to SaaS, quite frankly, entails a database migration. Premium Edition does support Oracle and SQL Server. I know SQL Server is now released. I don't know if Oracle's released or if that's still on the roadmap. We can check on that. But it is also at a considerable cost above and beyond the standard because the DB2 licensing is included by IBM. So for those who are looking to do a migration, Banetti, for example, my company offers services to do that database conversion, and we've developed some robust tools that will push your data through Maximo's APIs so that we do all the data validation into version 9.1 on the way into the environments, as opposed to trying to guess with backend data loads and things like that. So I think we have some very robust set of capabilities to assist in that process, but to be aware, it's a migration. Now, the flip side of that is, again, IBM's responsible, the wall outlet to the login screen. Do you really care what format your data is stored in on the back end if IBM's responsible for administering that database package? You're not going to have your Oracle or SQL Server DBAs working on the system anymore. IBM has DBAs that are responsible for all of those activities. So oftentimes that's a enthusiastic discussion with customers, but you really need to think long and hard on what are you trying to make your business. Is your business to run your business better or to run the IT infrastructure? If it's to run your business better, you shouldn't really care what your backend database is. And IBM's tools are every bit as robust as Oracle and Microsoft put out. So that should be a very viable option. We're going to talk a bunch more in the next few slides about upgrades and updates. With SaaS, IBM schedules your upgrades and updates. And the flexibility is minimal. If you're a premium customer, it's pretty much non-existent if you're Essentials and Standard Edition. But the idea is that we're trying to keep things current, keep things on a common platform, and work with our customers to get them all moving forward so that IBM doesn't have to support 15 or 20 different versions of the software over the next 5 years. So that's a consideration for many organizations. Be prepared for an annual update to the core product. Version 9.1 got shipped in June, which was 1 year after version 9.0. And the plan each year going forward is come the end of June, there'll be a new release of Manage, Maximo Application Suite, and everything associated with it. So if you're on SaaS, you're going to be upgraded annually. When it comes to the migration and upgrade process, a big discussion for a lot of customers is, are we doing a lift and shift, or are we essentially going to go reevaluate our implementation and see how we should be looking at things? Lift and shift looks to be straightforward. The database is upgradable. The database hasn't changed massively between 7.6.1.3 and Maximo Application Suite. In fact, it's changed minimally through 9.0. It's starting to get a few changes in 9.1. There could be more in the future, but so far it's pretty static to what we've seen for the last 10 years or so. So the lift and shift is a viable option to get your stuff moved across, with the exception of Java class files. If you've done some Java extensions, those need to be migrated to application scripts, but otherwise your application should come forward pretty much as is. On the other hand, many of our customers have been using Maximo for 20 or more years, even if it's 10 or more years. And the people who put it together using the version that they had and what was available for functionality at the time did the best they could for their situation and the environments that they had. But a lot of stuff has been added to Maximo since that original implementation. And rather than continuing to upgrade it, the significance of this shift to the whole new platform, the whole new operating paradigm, the introduction of all the new capabilities, monitor, mobile, visual inspection, health, predict, really gives you the opportunity to say, hey, we should probably reset in this new operating paradigm, get rid of some of these third-party add-ons, go to what's now available in the product that wasn't there before, or it wasn't good enough, and kind of reset our implementation with this reset to the entirely new paradigm. We as an organization can support both. IBM supports both, Banetti supports both, and we can work with you on what makes the most sense by doing a deep dive assessment of your current situation and what makes sense for you as an organization. And let's talk about it. The licensing or subscribing to, in this case with SaaS, the ability to get access to a whole lot of new capabilities. That's a big part of the value messaging around the Maximo Application Suite and why you should consider going to it. Because look at all this new stuff that's now available to you. To make the entire move without looking seriously at leveraging those new capabilities, kind of have to look at it twice and say, wait a minute, IBM's got all this stuff. They put it there for a reason. Customers have demanded these types of capabilities. Otherwise, IBM wouldn't be doing it. What value is there in looking at those capabilities? So it's important when you look at moving to MAS, especially SaaS, that all of these topics get explored and do a detailed assessment of where you're at, where you're going, what's the smart way to get there, what your needs are, and what sort of capabilities you have for the future. And we've got more than one next generation Maximo project going on right now. And I know there's quite a bit more across the Maximo user base looking at that next generation of Maximo. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this upgrade question, because this is one of the more significant aspects of moving to SaaS. Now, in one respect, we're all very accustomed to very frequent updates. Most of us just turn automatic updates on with our phones, and all those applications we've installed get updated. Sometimes we know about it, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's a security patch and they don't even let us really know about it. It's not really all that germane, but the point is updates come to us very regularly. IBM is working diligently to move to that type of a continuous delivery model with Maximo. They originally looked at doing the Maximo Application Suite every 3-4 months. Customers said, hey, we can't keep up. It takes us longer than that to upgrade. So they reset at an annual upgrade. Major new releases, right now we're on version 9. IBM just released a minor release, 9.1, and at the end of the month, there's probably going to be a 9.11. That's kind of the model they're looking at. So the upgrade moves you from major versions and even the minor versions. Those are upgrade that need to be scheduled, planned, thought out, tested. The updates can be available as often as monthly. On the SaaS, some of these updates we're going to talk about in more detail here are required and will be applied automatically, emergency updates and things like that. Some of them can be applied to non-prod environments selectively and allow you to pay attention to all the new capabilities that are coming out. So we need to get this upgrade versus update terminology kind of settled in here. But be aware, they're coming with SaaS. So one of the things that IBM is offering with this new paradigm is what they're calling a feature channel on your SaaS environment, on your non-prod environment, and a maintenance channel. Now, with the continuous delivery, all of the security updates and major bug fixes are going to be part of that maintenance channel. So if a security update comes, it's an emergency, IBM says we have to patch this, it's coming to your environment. You're basically agreeing to that when you sign up for SaaS. And in some respects, you're asking for that kind of attention to be paid to your environment by IBM and all of its security protocols. So those are things you want to see happen. Additionally, IBM has taken a new approach just in this last year to saying, hey, we're developing stuff all the time. What we're ready to do is put out monthly updates that include new features that we are ready to share with customers, almost like it's a beta version of the software. You can elect to have this feature channel turned on to one of your non-prod environments so that IBM goes ahead and posts those new capabilities that you can start to get a look-ahead view of and provide comment on while it's still being developed. This can ease the transition to that general availability version 9.2 or 9.3 over the next couple of years when it comes out, because you've had a chance to kind of assess what's going on as the updates are made to the software, and you can look at what new capabilities you want to exploit, or even it's just to see that things get fixed so that you can communicate to smooth the transition to the actual release on your non-prod and production environments at the end of the year. Okay. So you can select to go to a update channel, the feature channel, if you will, at the point of general availability release. So when you get upgraded to 9.1, you can say, hey, I want my development environment to be on the feature channel and get those updates every month so I can take a look at it. I'm not going to be able to roll them back. They're going to put them out there. They're for viewing purposes. They're not in your production environment. If you don't like it, wait till the end of the month. Another one's going to come. We'll see what it looks like. It may change what was originally installed, but it's a constant product evolution and expansion that you get to be aware of. Some large organizations may actually elect to have a non-prod environment added to their scope such that they can get that visibility without developing or without impacting their development environment or test, and obviously not impacting production. So it's a consideration. If you'd like to get that look ahead against your system, your database, that's available. If you decide you don't want that, wait till the next general availability, submit a support ticket and say, that was fun, but that's not really something we need. We'd like to turn it off going forward. So that's available to organizations. Now let's talk about updates. How does this stuff happen? Communications on the updates are sent via the Client Communications Center. You're gonna have to identify who your key people are, a primary and a backup on SaaS provisioning, and those people will be notified through the Communication Center, which is IBM's secure messaging system internally that will allow you to see a non-prod update. And then once you have a chance to look at the non-prod update, then you can get a production update. Non-prods happen during the week. You get plenty of notice. They're 5 days coming. And the environment for the production or the updates to the production environment get a little different notice, and those occur on weekends. And primarily for US based, for some of the international clients, that can be a little different, but it's good to notice and pay close attention to those as they happen. Emergency updates, let's talk about those. They will be applied to prod and non-prod environments as necessary. They're not subject to notification or a delay between non-prod and prod. They are deferrals are not accepted against emergency updates. Again, the definition of emergency, it has to be done. Okay, and emergency updates can't be deferred for any reason. So you're going to get those updates when they happen. The emergency updates, first off, a couple things about them. They're very few and far between. So this isn't something that you're going to see coming along once a week. That's not the type of system that IBM's managing at all. And the overwhelming majority of these emergency updates are security related and do not impact your operational environment. And even if they do have very minor impacts, it's a big if on that because most of the time they don't have any impact. If they do, those impacts are just something we're all going to have to live with because we had to have that security update installed. So those are rare, but it is part of the paradigm that we do want to at least communicate about. Now, the upgrades, that's the big one. It's pretty straightforward. You upgrade a non-prod environment first. All of them are upgraded at once. So version 9.2 will come out next June, or 9.1 that just came out. IBM will provide notification that says your non-prod upgrade is scheduled for Tuesday next week. Here it comes. And be prepared. When it hits, it hits. That's your notice to say that once it arrives, you can immediately switch into your UAT and system integration testing so that you can make sure the system still works as expected. If you need to do remediation, be prepared, make whatever changes are necessary, write those down so that when it goes to the production upgrade, you can immediately make those same changes. IBM allows a minimum of 4 weeks after your non-prod systems are updated before the production environments are upgraded. And they give you at least 10 days, business days notice on when that's going to happen. So you're going to get at least a couple of weeks, I should say, notice that your production system is going to be upgraded. Along with this model, IBM is doing a whole lot more investment in those upgrades processing so that it minimizes the impacts on the operational environment. So you're not going to see a major upgrade that restructures the database or anything like that. And it's also gone through extensive testing. They've upped their ante significantly on what they invest in making sure these upgrades are not as impactful as some of the previous upgrades have been in previous versions. But this is the paradigm that SaaS offers. All deployments in Premium Edition are managed pretty much the same way as the Standard Edition. The difference is you can delay some of these upgrades as much as 180 days. That's part of what you're paying for. On the premium side of it is a bit of that flexibility. and you still have to upgrade the entire environment sooner or later, but you have some flexibility on the scheduling. I think that's probably the biggest difference between premium and standard when it comes to upgrades is you get some delays, deferrals, if you will, out up to 180 days. But again, IBM's really pushing to keep everybody current, to have a common set of systems so that they're not managing 3, 4, or 5 different versions of software for all these different customers. They're basically switching the paradigm from what it was with the old SaaS Flex offering to say we're going to keep customers current. So let's talk briefly about how do you get to SaaS? What all is involved? This is where our team can step in. Again, I'm part of business partner, Banetti. And first thing we'll talk about is the detailed review of the app point calculator. That's the tool that IBM publishes. It's a spreadsheet with macros. It's nothing glorious about it, but it allows us to walk through and identify which edition, which applications in those editions, and how many environments, how many users of what type, and derive a total number of SaaS app points that are required. From there we go to a subscription agreement, which is separate from any and all licensing agreements from MAS or Maximo EAM 7613. The important point to look at there is the application upgrade that is offered under MAS under standard licensing takes your existing Maximo EAM licenses and translates them to app points. Many customers are confused by how many app points do I really need all of that. There's an app point scripts that can be run to assess what your utilization is. We use all those tools to get good insight into what you're actually using, or for new customers, we'll go through and discuss it with you at length, what types of users you're going to have, a profile of your organization, how many total users, how many maintenance technicians, how many supervisors. We'll work through that to come up with a model for your users that gets added to the model for the infrastructure and the management, the installs, what have you, the base installs. And then we come out with a total number of points required. Then again, SaaS subscription agreement. That can be 1 to 5 years. It locks in your price initially and also locks in your uplift each year if we set it up correctly. And I'm more than happy to work through all of that with you so that you fully understand exactly what you're buying. Now, when we look at transition planning for existing customers, multiple factors here. The biggest one is the direct migration of a DB2 database. Pretty straightforward. IBM has a service for that. We simply subscribe to it, and they'll work with us and assign an expert labs person to help move that across. As far as the database conversion to DB2, well, again, we'll work with you in detail on that and take you through the entire process and take your database from SQL Server or Oracle and move it up to the SaaS environment on DB2. We'll also discuss with you the lift and shift versus reimplementation. We can go through an assessment. We're doing multiples of those right now on what's the right path, how much of the existing system, how many open issues, how many new capabilities, how frustrated is the organization. We've seen some very clean organizations. Lift and shift is very appropriate. We've got some other organizations that we're essentially starting with a blank database, importing what data we can that's useful, and re-implementing their software to give them what they really need for the future, not what they needed 20 years ago. Recommend testing. Yes, this is an upgrade. If you're moving Maximo 7613 to Maximo 9.1, there are upgrade scripts to do that. It still makes sense to make sure everything works. It can be UAT, system interfaces, your reports, your workflows, your start centers, those types of things. Still need to validate that when you flip it over on a weekend, come Monday morning, your users can still do the work they need to do. And then we'll work on a successful go live and transition plan. So we're very happy to support that. We partner with IBM throughout this process. This is not something we do in isolation, and we're finding a lot of success for customers in making this transition. Now, Everybody likes to share lots of links to lots of things, but the one on this slide is actually very, very important. The MAS SaaS documentation walks through all the different facets of SaaS. Your security, your operational tasks, it writes it all out. Everything that I've said in here, I hope is consistent with that document, but let's be honest, that document is really the governing information about how the SaaS is operated. So when you get these slides or take a screenshot, whatever it takes, that's not a hard one to type in if you have to. It's all accessible, it's public, you don't need to log in, but that will get you extensive documentation about SaaS and everything you need to know for your security team, et cetera, et cetera. If you have more questions, reach out to me. My contact information is here, email or phone. And Rod, I want to give credit. Don't know if Rod was able to join today, but Rod is the offering manager responsible for creating this and getting it up and operational, and for putting a lot of the content together here that we're sharing today. I want to give Rod credit. Not going to take credit for his parts. Um, but I think IBM's done a really good job on doing the SaaS offering. It's very robust, and we look forward to helping customers move to that environment, whether that be a new implementation or migration of existing customers. With that, India, happy to open up to questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tom. If anyone has questions, I don't think I saw any that were in the chat. Feel free to come off mute and ask any of the questions for Tom here while we still have his attendance. There are also a few polls that are in the chat if you guys wouldn't mind responding to the polls. They kind of just give us a pulse on what versions you guys might currently be using, where you are in your migration efforts to the cloud, if that is something that's on the docket for you guys. And then also just gives us an idea of what topics you guys might want to see at some future webinars.
I'd like to thank everybody for attending.
Yes,
And
thank
if you
you.
would like to send notes to us, please reach out. India, are you going to be able to share the deck here with the
Yes.
participants?
Yep, so after the meeting concludes, I'll share the recording with all participants who registered, and we'll get that out to you guys. If you have any questions and want to go into a deeper dive on any specific topics that we had today, please don't hesitate to reach out to Tom, to myself, and we'll get you guys routed to the right person and set up with a further meeting offline. And if you have any, before we go, if you, like I said, fill out any of the polls that we have, any feedback that you have is appreciated. And we look forward to seeing you guys on some future webinars.
Thank you for participating. Have a great day.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Banetti.